The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys for all attending. It's great having a full house. We have some good things coming tonight. All right, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I would like to delete the 26-27 academic calendar. We've had some challenges that have come up and we need more time to sort through that and thoroughly vet that before bringing it back to the board.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Deleted. Okay, that's it? Okay. Patrons registered to comment on action items. I have one. Mr. Martinez, if you'd like to come on up.
Hey, good evening everyone. If you haven't met me before, my name is David Martinez. I'm a 2008 graduate of Lowell High School. In my 4th year teaching for the district, currently teaching English 9, advanced speech for the first time, and then I'm also the teacher for the student media program. I just wanted to come say thank you to the board tonight for purchasing ad space from our yearbook. You guys purchased a half page, which helps sponsor our program. We've had a great year. We're looking at making about 2,000 more in ad sales than we did last year just on business ads. So I just want to say thank you for being part of supporting our program, especially as we start to expand it. If you don't follow us on social media, please do on Instagram and Facebook. LHS Student Media on Facebook, at LHS Student Media on Instagram. And we are starting to roll out our new student newsletter, the Pitchfork Press. I've been posting the articles as they've been coming through. So we are starting to launch that. And I'm really excited about that. We're on the same platform that Crown Point, Lake Central, Munster, and several other of our area schools are on.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity and reaching out with that opportunity to support the yearbook. And thank you for coming and letting everybody know about these opportunities to follow our students and everything you guys are doing.
They're doing impressive work. I mean, they're determined and they give me ideas. They asked me about a state conference just a few days ago that they want to go to down in Indianapolis in January. So I need to start exploring that. You'll probably see something from my program on the agenda next month or the month after.
Great.
So they have brought some stuff up to me as well. They're like, how can we make this yearbook a competitive yearbook? Do you want to have the best one in the area? So yeah, still technically in my first year right now. As of this weekend, I'll be able to say second year advisor. We're almost to the point now. I took it over about 9 weeks into the school year last year and have learned a lot very quickly. And I'm very lucky to have learned so much so fast and to have students who are determined to make it even better.
You have been very resilient with all the changes that have come your way and taken everything on board with an eagerness, as we can see, to do it well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I already have a lot of students who said they wanted for next year. I was telling my parents, I said, I think we have like 90 to 100 kids in student media next year. These are just kids who have reason to talk to me, current students, past students, boyfriends and girlfriends, so I'm really excited to see the program grow and hope that's the way it goes.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we are going to conduct a public hearing on the 2026 budgets and 2026 to 2030 bus replacement plan and 2026 to 2028 capital projects plan. So I'm gonna open the public hearing for that. Dana?
Okay, so I will present the budget here to you. Okay, so tonight, we posted our budgets in Gateway on the 30th to advertise for tonight. On the 9th for our public hearing, we'll have an adoption 2 weeks later. And then hopefully by January 1st, the DLGF will issue the budget order and then we'll have everything done. So some of the items that the board are going to approve at the next meeting would be our Form 4, which are our appropriations or budget, our bus replacement plan, which is 5 years of a 12-year cycle, but spoiler alert, we're more like 12 to 14 years. We'll get to that. capital asset plan, 3 years of any kind of capital assets that we're going to purchase that might be over $10,000 here. Transfer resolution of the revenue that comes into the, from the basic grant to the education fund to the operations fund that we need to support our operations fund with. And I'm going to be bringing a resolution to the board for reduction of the current operations fund by a little bit of money, about $300,000, to fund the following year budget. So more on that when we bring
One
those.
quick second, I wanna interrupt you, I'm sorry. This is something that we do every year, about this time. This isn't
Yes.
something new that we're throwing in there, so if, you're just starting to get involved in paying attention to what the schools are doing, this is something we do every year.
Yes, it is.
It's not a
It's
surprise, it's not a
requirement.
new way to spend money or do any of that. This is what we do every year at this time, so.
But I think they're all here to see it, right?
They
I mean,
are.
come on. That's what I
It'll help them
thought.
sleep better tonight.
Right. Okay, so just to go over some definitions, since the budgets can get pretty heavy in school finance in the term. So a budget's a plan of expenditures and revenues that, you know, at any given time, it would support our educational programs that we want. So it could be a calendar budget, it could be a fiscal, or it could be ongoing. What I'm speaking of tonight is a calendar budget, and that's the odd thing, is that our budgets from, approved from the state, from the Department of Local Government Finance, are approved on the calendar year basis. But as you know, school years don't follow calendar years, they've split too. So I'm always working, I've got one foot in one school year and I got another foot in the other school year to try and figure out what revenues are, try and figure out what staffing projections are. It's kind of challenging, but it's an Indiana thing, let's just say that. So a budget contains appropriations, which is just a term for budget lines. So if we're gonna spend X amount on supplies, that's an appropriation right there. So we have assessed value too that plays into this. So the assessed value is the total value assigned to all real property and any kind of improvements in an area that's being taxed. So basically, in a clean and easy way, it's the market value of your home. That's what it is. It's your market value, what you could probably get if you put it on the market for that any given period of time. So it's your gross assessed value. No deductions, no nothing. This is set by the assessors each year. So when you get those jumps in value, it's because of their calculation and what they're seeing in the market. It is set by their appraisal guides and prescribed by the Department of Local Government Finance. The next term is net assessed value, and that's what I deal with mainly. Net assessed value is after we take all of your deductions that you apply on your tax bill, homestead, supplemental homestead, those types of things, that creates a net assessed value, so it's after all deductions. Tax rate, I'm developing tax rates here, so it's the tax rates multiplied to every $100 of property's net AV, NAV, net assessed value, again, after all those deductions. So we take that tax rate, once you've got all your deductions out, then we apply it. It's written in a dollars and cents kind of calculation, so it'll be like our operations fund right here. I'm proposing a 30-cent, and 30.18 cents per 100 net assessed value. So that's how it's written, that's your tax rate, and you'll find that on your tax bill. Another term that comes up, and you'll see this on your tax bill, it's the bottom half of it, it's the circuit breaker. The circuit breaker limits the amount that any taxpayer in any type or category can ever pay. It's a state of Indiana thing, it's in Indiana code. It's part of our Constitution. 1% for residential or homeowners or homesteads, you can't pay more than 1% of your market value, that gross assessed value. You can't pay more than 2% of any kind of agriculture assessed value, and businesses 3%. So circuit breaker kicks in after you figure your tax bill, and they take a look at your gross assessed value. Let's say your home was $250,000, and it is a home, so you can't pay more than $2,500 for your tax bill. But when we apply the tax rate and everything, it comes out to $3,000. So it's over that $2,500. So there's $500 that is a circuit breaker credit, they call it. So they reduce your tax bill another $500. Now that $500 is reduced for all the taxing entities within that tax rate by the proportionate share of the total tax rate. So school districts are generally the larger portion of your tax bill if you ever look at the total tax rate. So we take the bigger hit of that $500 loss. Simple, right? Circuit breaker, very difficult to describe. Now here's the harder one, tax levy. It's the amount of revenue collected from property taxes for a specific purpose or fund. It's calculated by applying that tax rate to the net AVs, the net assessed value. So I put a little example here. Our net assessed value for Tri Creek Schools right here is $2,029,299,813. That's the total of all of our homes put together and all of our properties, our agriculture, everything together after we've taken all the deductions. So that's how much Tri Creek is valued here. It's actually up 3% from last year, 3.25. You divide that by 100, and then you multiply it by that tax rate that I had up there for operations fund, 30 cents right there, and you come up with how much tax levy. That is the amount of money that the school district can raise. That is the levy, that's the revenue. That's when everybody's paying their bills, it totals to that $6,124,000 to support that fund. Okay. So the relationship between these. So I took that net AV, it's already divided by 100. This is the calculation that we just had on that other screen, equals that $6,124,000. To show you how dependent each one of these numbers are, it's a standard function here. If we were to drop that net assessed value by 70%, bring it down to 14.2, multiply it by the same tax rate, it equals $4,285,000. So the school district would get $4 million in that situation because the net assessed value dropped that much. That's a loss from year over year, just about 1.8 million there. In order to recoup the same amount of money here in your levy, you would have to increase that tax rate to 41 or 43 cents there in order to get the same amount of money. So you might wonder what would cause our homes values to go down, because that hasn't happened in years here. Our home values keep going up every year. There's been a change, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I wanted to touch a little bit on the budget challenges here. Revenues are always, on the revenue side, the budget challenges, I kind of alluded to it, that we have, I'm projecting out what our students are. So we're talking about the 26 calendar budget right now, which is the second half of this school year. So I'm trying to figure out how many students we're going to have next year in January of 26. And then we're looking even further into the beginning of next school year. So we're predicting that enrollment. And we're looking at histories, we're looking at home builds, we're using a lot of data to try and come up and predict the future on this one. But when it comes down to it, sometimes it's not so easy, and you'll see that in the numbers. And then, of course, we've got that circuit breaker. We never know how that's going to play out. It's hard to get to that number because it's a hefty calculation, and tax bills have to be calculated. So the timing of tax bills being calculated is also a challenge in that. On the expenditure side, all of our funds are very, heavy on people. We're in the people business. We've got teachers, we've got staff, we've got custodial, maintenance. It's a very people-centric budget, and at least 80%, and in some cases even higher in other funds, in the 90% range, it's all related on people. So when you've got a drop-off in students mid-year, you can't just cut a teacher easily because they don't all leave in third grade and say, see ya. They kind of scatter throughout, and it's hard to reduce your budget as quick as revenues reduce. So that's challenging. The other issues here is that school districts, just like your home, we are subject to those fixed or market-driven costs that are out there. Our NIPSCO bill went up too. Yes, we have solar, but that just means we're eating through our credits faster, and we're starting to get bills where we didn't have bills before. 17% increase is what we're looking at. Liability insurance, just like your homeowner's insurance, we're facing it too here at the school district, 12%. Bus purchases up 35% over the last 3 years. A bus now is about 190,000. I remember, when I started here, there were 115, and that was 12 years ago.
I remember 90.
Yes, so, I mean, they've nearly doubled, you know, in 12 years, and most of it being in the last couple of years. So that's challenging. Budget development, we've got different funds here. We have our debt service and pension debt service. I write that budget for that. So those are need-based funds. You have a need, which are your mortgages in there. That's what these debt service funds are. So for every project, every building we built, the middle school, we have a mortgage that typically extends about 20 to 30 years out that we took to fund that bill. It's part of your tax rate. So that's a need base there. We have pension debt service. Back in 2006 and 2009, we took out bonds in order to buy out what they called unfunded liability. They were days paid time off that teachers and administrators had accumulated, and at any given time, they could have had 200 to 300 days, and when they retired, they got a nice big check. At that point, state of Indiana said, let's be fiscally responsible on this. Let's not get into the unfunded, who knows how much money is out there, and they allowed us to issue bonds to buy out those things. So this is all to pay the principal and interest, just like your mortgages at home. That is based on a need-based budget. And I say that because state of Indiana says you pay your debt regardless of anything else. You pay them before your people. So this is a guaranteed part of our budget. No matter how much debt is issued through an approval process, it's all approved debt that's gone through public hearings and gone through all of that, where the public's had a chance to say something about it or to actually put some input on it. We pay those payments first before anything else. So it's a need-based budget. So whatever we need to pay those mortgages, and we've got schedules for all of them in any given year, it's a given, we're gonna pay for that. On the bottom here are the available revenue-based budgets. You've got your education and your operations fund. So education fund, the main source of revenue is our state tuition support. So if we have 3,200 kids, we know how much money we're gonna get. We can't really spend more than that. You know, that's what you get. It's an available revenue type situation. Same thing with the operations fund. Operations fund, for tax rate purposes, because it is a tax-driven fund where education fund receives no property taxes, operation fund is limited in statute to only be able to grow 4% a year in your revenue, your levy. Remember that word? Levy is revenue. So we can only tax enough to get 4% increase each year. Yet NIPSCO's gone up 17%, bus replacements, or buses have gone up 35%, all of that. But we can only increase it by 4%. So we can't ask for more than that. So education fund, I kind of alluded to this real quick. It's all instructional. That's the easiest way to describe it. So it's teachers, supplies, instructional supplies, guidance, counseling, nursing, anything that really is closest to the classroom. That's your education fund. On the right-hand side here, I've got what the revenue is. State tuition support, it's based on revenue, on enrollment, and some local revenue, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Operations fund is for everything else that's kind of farther away from the classroom, but still supports the education process. It's your transportation, your bus replacement, capital projects, custodial maintenance, central office personnel here, business office, all of that, technology, a certain extent of technology that isn't educational in nature, like network. So you do have personnel costs and things like that. That is supported by your property tax. And it also gets money from the education fund. So it's in Indiana code that you can transfer between the two funds, but I don't know of any school district that is transferring from the operations fund and getting way too much property tax money to send, and they're sending it over to the other side, to the education fund. It is, you're taking your state tuition support and you're transferring a portion of that to the education fund. That is limited. there's a guideline. You can't transfer more than 15% of your state tuition support to the operations fund. I have a chart that will show we were well under that. So here's what I want to talk about. When I mentioned that net assessed values never go down, the values of our homes never go down. Well, your market value isn't going to go down, but that net assessed value, one after the deductions, will go down due to the new Senate enrolled Act 1 and how it affects the net assessed value in any area. So back in April, late in the legislative session, a concept came through, which 2 weeks later ended up being Senate Enrolled Act 1, and they approved it, and boom, we've got a change in how property tax is assessed here in Indiana. And we've been scrambling since then to try and figure this out to see what the effects are on our schools and on towns and on our libraries, our police and fire. This affects every entity out there. So in 2005, Senate Enrolled Act 1 changed the way, changed your deductions. A different way to handle those homestead deductions for you. And it's in the favor of the taxpayer. You're gonna get a bigger deduction, and I've got an example of that. But it also reduces that net assessed value. So it starts affecting the entities here that apply a tax rate to that amount. We start getting less revenue as a result. When the net AV decreases, this could cause tax rates because your NIPSCO bill, you gotta keep the lights on, you gotta drive those buses, you gotta pay for that insurance, so you gotta keep a minimum level, you can only cut so much. So at that point, you gotta start increasing tax rates, and you'll see tax rates increasing, which then in turn kicks in that circuit breaker loss even more. So it's like cyclical. It's very hard to figure out how to get to the sweet spot of where you would get enough revenue for everyone. Senate Enrolled Act also adds an additional homestead property tax credit to taxpayers after you figure your tax bill. There's a bonus one, I'll call it, a bonus homestead deduction, bonus for the taxpayer, not for the entities. And then Senate Enrolled Act also changes business personal property tax, and it has a change to the non-homestead deduction process we'll get into. So here's the homestead related changes. So you've got a standard deduction and you have a supplemental deduction on your tax bill. Your standard deduction is most likely this $48,000. There's another calculation if your home is valued over $60,000 or $600,000. It's a percentage base, but typically everyone is right around that $48,000. So I did a calculation here for that, and I showed the standard deduction. Let's say our home is $48,000. So there's your net AV after you apply that homestead. Well, there's a supplemental deduction as well, which is 37.5%. This is 2025 where we are right now. So you take 37.5% off of that 202, and this is what we call the net assessed value for that home. And we apply that tax rate, like the 30 cents that we had on there, and that's how much you pay for the operations fund. Well, the change that's going on with the homestead here is that they are phasing out the flat deduction by walking it down. You could see all the way to 0 in 2031. And they are increasing that supplemental all the way to 2/3 credit against it. So your home value, as far as net AV here, will be valued at 1/3 the amount of the market right now. So you can see what that when you're $250,000 home, there's no homestead standard flat rate there, but when you apply that 66.7, this is how much we're gonna apply that 30-cent tax rate to at the $83,250. So it went from on our books at $126,250 down to $83,250. So it walks down. The next thing, there's that bonus one that I spoke about. After they figure out how much tax you're gonna pay at that point, and you come up with your, let's say, $3,000 bill, they take a look at it and see if your net assessed value, which one is lesser, 10% of your assessed value or $300. So they apply that to that 250, so $250 or 300, whichever one is less, and they take that off your tax bill, take it off of there, and there you go. $83,000 is what your home is valued at there. So another loss right there. So technically, this starts right away in 2026, so that $300 would be removed off of here. I just took it off the last one to illustrate that it actually went from 126,000 down to 83,000 on the books to apply that tax rate. Business-related changes. I mentioned that business personal property tax is getting a change. Right now, any business that's in our area here, if they have any kind of personal property, meaning equipment, within that business, if everything is exempt if it is 80,000 or less, it's non-taxable. They moved that to $2 million. So think of all the businesses that are here. Everyone's talking about all the businesses that have opened, the cold storage, John Deere that is opening up, some of the restaurants in town, some of the other stuff, Seiko, Aunt Millie's. How much equipment do they have that costs $2 million or less? It's all gonna be exempt from the tax right now. It's not part of that net assessed value. They're carving it out. And they won't be taxed on it. And that hurts the taxing entities there. The other thing it did do, it also did, is that it eliminated the depreciation floor. You used to depreciate each year a certain percentage and get down to 30%, and then you would just stay at 30% until you replace that equipment. They reduced it. You can keep depreciating to 0, so it can actually go off the books. The other deduction that's out there is for 2% properties. Those are your agriculture, your rentals, any rental units, or any long-term care. We have quite a few here in Lowell. If you're just naming those 3 right there, that's quite a bit of Lowell. They are walking in a higher percentage deduction as well, similar to what I showed you on that other graph for a homestead. So they're doing a similar thing right there where it walks into a 33.3% deduction off of their gross. So what does this mean for Tri-Creek? So looking at this chart here, the top is your market value of your homes, and it's what they've projected out. So we've partnered with a company called Policy Analytics that has parcel by parcel data from the county, and they're able to analyze this and give us a projection of what's gonna happen. So they assumed a 3% growth on your market value. So this is actually, if I'm looking at it, it's hard to see here, gross assessed value. So this top one is your market, it's how much total all of our properties together as a Tri-Creek School Corporation, our taxing entities are together. So we're $3,213 million is where it's at. The net assessed value is the blue line there. So $2,076 million is what the net assessed value is, and this is what the blue line would have been walking right in tandem with the market, and that's all pre Senate enrolled acts. So if nothing had gone in place back in April, starting July 1st of 25, our properties would have just been climbing, and so would our net AV. But the orange line shows what it does to our net assessed value with all these deductions kicking in for everyone. So deductions, it decreases our net assessed value. Remember that calculation, net assessed value times the tax rate equals how much revenue we can raise for our operations. As that's going down, it's less and less that we can raise for our school district here. So this shows what's going on with Tri-Creek. Orange is our debt service. It's our levy for debt service. Blue is our operations fund. This gray part up on the top is the circuit breaker. And I've got another chart that'll illustrate that better, but you can see that we had in 2024, $533,000 in circuit breaker, that's tax loss. It jumped to $645,000 the next year. And the following year, meaning 2026 right there, $1.9 million is what we're looking at as tax revenue lost for Tri-Creek schools. It continues into the 2 millions up there. So what this slide shows is what our levy is, which is most important because again, debt service is typically protected. We pay our debt service first. I'm not saying it's not subject to some of this circuit breaker effect because that's one of the issues with this bill is that they forgot to totally protect that debt service. So our circuit breaker will hit debt service this year, but it's probably one of the things they're going to fix. So that when I say that $2 million here or the $1.9 million in 2026 of circuit breaker loss, a large portion of that, about half, is gonna hit our debt service. We'll still be able to pay our bills because we have some cash reserves there, but you can't do that year over year, and Indiana acknowledges that. A lot of our stronger entities in Indiana that issue credit ratings, important credit ratings for the state of Indiana and for schools and for towns and everything, have voiced their concerns about this hitting debt service. So they will propose in this short session, most likely, protecting debt service and saying you can't hit it with any of that circuit breaker. So that means everything will be hitting our operations fund once they change that. So that full $2 million will be reducing our operations budget. But yet, our utility bill is gonna go up, our buses are still gonna go up, fuel is still gonna go up, it's not gonna reduce like that, so we have to make changes. So it's showing how the levy, which is the tax revenue here, is going down as a result. And again, it's not showing all of it hitting operations fund, it's showing it split between the two. Down here on the bottom, it shows the net AV that we were looking at. You can see how it goes up a little, but then it starts reducing when it gets to that range. Again, this is 24, 25, 26, so there we're fine here, but then it starts reducing with all those tax credits. The other thing here is our tax rate. I have that sitting here. We've been sitting at $1.55 tax rate for 3 continuous years. And we've held it since we lost the referendum because that was our word. We said we would, and we did. And we made the cuts, we made the hard decisions, and we kept it at $1.05. It's not been easy. You guys know it in this room. So $1.05, we've kept it there. But looking at this, at some point, you gotta pay your debt service. So you gotta increase it. So these are projections here that they're showing of tax rates so that you can keep what you need to pay your bills. This is gonna happen in every single one of those entities out there. They're gonna have to increase because they're not gonna cut police officers. They're gonna have to add. They're gonna have to add more fire departments or even maintain at least the amount of fire and personnel that they've got now and police personnel. So in order to do that, they're gonna have to raise more money. So they're gonna have to hit higher tax rate. And that's the problem that they didn't necessarily foresee in enacting some of these credits, which they thought they were doing the taxpayer some good here by reducing your tax liability. A lot to take in here, huh? A lot of stuff. So this is just a sheet, and it's kind of hard to see, but this shows that the estimation of that 1.9 million, this is from the Department of Local Government Finance. It was a spreadsheet that I got. I could plug in any school district here and it'll tell me what their circuit breaker is. And we are pretty much on the nose. 1,863,000 is what it says. Pretty close to 1.9 million in tax credit. What it does show, I have it in a spreadsheet better further down, but it shows that in 2021 we only had $287,000 in circuit breaker, and we're going up to 1.9 million. So we did do some budget reduction. We did quite a bit. We had a heavy lift. In May of 2023, we went for the referendum and it was unsupported. It was not supported. So we had to make some tough decisions. That first phase 1 of cuts, the district practiced attrition. We looked at every resignation, every retirement, and decided whether or not we really needed it. And we made some tough decisions. That year, 7 teaching positions, 1 high school counselor, 8 classroom aides. We converted a middle school principal to dean, and we took a look at some of our supplies and our software as well. That was a $780,000 reduction. We were asking for about 1 million in revenue from that revenue, from the referendum. Of course, we gave increases that year. We had to keep our staff too, so we were offsetting some of that. We also added down here, I've got a revenue focus, because there's two sides to the equation. You gotta focus on cutting, and you gotta focus on increasing that revenue where you can. So what we did was we started charging food service, our food service operations, what's called indirect cost rate. So they're paying for light bills, they're paying for water, they're paying for all that. What stinks about that is that it does show up in meal prices eventually, you know, because we're charging the kids eventually when it comes down to it, because it's not, you know, going to self-support itself. So it was one of those things we had to enact as well. Phase 2 cuts the following school year here, same thing, we took a look at program evaluation and everything, $550,000 reduction, 4 teaching positions, program evaluation of reduction in supplies and software, and then we made the switch to iPads and changed our internet service here for some savings, so that resulted in $550,000. You can see it's kind of, you can only cut so much as you go there. Phase 3 cuts this year. We cut a 1.6 full-time equivalent teacher out of, when you're comparing staff from last year to this year. And of course, when you cut teachers and you cut that kind of staff, class sizes start rising. We're feeling it now. We're feeling that class size rising in those elementary schools and all levels, middle school and high school as well. We reduced a certified administrator and a support coordinator. Further reductions in software and supplies, that was $251,000. In this year too, we had a reduction at the central office of the support personnel too. So we had some reduction there. Our revenue focus this year, we knew we had to hit, we knew we couldn't cut as much as we, you know, did in past years, so we started focusing on revenue. Virtual students, you know, the virtual academy was born from that, and we launched that to get more students in here and try and capture some of those students that were going elsewhere or that we could get from outside. And we focused on student fees, unfortunately. We were one of 2 school districts in Region 1, Lake, LaPorte and Valpo schools, or Lake, LaPorte and Valpo counties, one of 2 school districts to enact student fees, because we had to. So that was part of it, virtual academy and student fees. So how does this affect our budget? Education-wise, so when I'm working on the budget for the assumptions here, like I said, I've got 2 feet in 2 different years here, and I'm trying to figure out what our student count's gonna be in February, because we have 2 counts a year that count for our revenue, an October count and a February account. If you lose students in that February account, you really can't cut staff because you've got teaching contracts and other things like that. So you just gotta hang on, or you hit this, you reduce maybe support staff if possible. But you got those 2 counts, it affects your revenue quite a bit. Assumptions this year, we had an increase in CTE revenue, and that was very positive. We had a new course added at the middle school that was funded that we didn't have before, Intro to Computer Science. And then we added exercise science and maybe another one, I can't remember it on the top of my head, but it increased our CTE revenue slightly. And I looked at flat funding for the other special grants and the components in there. Expenditures, the grant, or the budget includes a 2% increase for health insurance of the overall 4%, so 2% is going on the employee most likely. Includes a 6% estimated increase for our cooperative, our special ed cooperative. Again, this is the second half of 2026 because our budget is set with them for this school year. But I built that in there. A transfer from education to operation funds of 2.6 million or 10.48. And it includes curricular material expenditures. Revenue sources in the education fund are basic tuition support, which is our average daily membership or enrollment. So how many kiddos we've got and what kind of categories they might be in. So we get additional funds for career and technical education funding, like I said, special education funding, honors grant, and non-English speaking. We also have revenues in the form of refunds that we get and rebates, investments. We invest our money. We have a high interest earning checking account that gets us a great return. and any kind of reimbursements is counted as revenue. 99% of the education fund revenue is based on enrollment. So kiddos in seats, very important here to keep increasing our enrollment or at least keep it steady. Here's our district enrollment over the last 15 years, 11, 12 here. We gained 1 student from the year before, and then we started losing, minus 40, minus 83 that year, minus 64. You can see we were at 3,600 back then, 3,601. And you can see how we've had those losses of students all the way, 34, minus 86. We had business, a couple of major businesses closed down, people moved north, gas prices were going up at that time, building wasn't taking place. Hanover schools and up north, St. John, they were building like crazy. And so people were moving that way, going closer to jobs. Then we started to see a change right after the pandemic. We had a loss of 86 that year. We had a positive 77. That was a boomerang. We had some kindergartners that were probably held back, or people that didn't send their kids to school that year and went online instead. But now you can possibly see that we're leveling off and going in the positive, although our ADM count of 3286, that's how many students we have enrolled in Tri-Creek schools for this year, includes 38 virtual. If we didn't have that virtual academy, we'd be down, we'd be negative over last year. So the virtual academy is a great thing here for Tri-Creek. We get $7,286 in basic funding for each student. Except for virtual. Virtual, we get 85% of that, so we get $5,922 for each virtual student. This is the interesting thing to look at, is kindergarten class versus senior class. So kindergarten class back in the 11-12 was 216, our senior class was 310. You can see how that starts shrinking, that senior class, and at the same time, our kindergarten class is kind of staying steady. The ones that are starred here are the years where our kindergarten class outpaced our seniors. So we're graduating less seniors than we're taking in on kindergartners, so that's good. We've got, this year was probably our COVID year of people staying home, keeping their kids home, 2021 and 20, sending them back to school. So you might have had some older kindergartners that year. That we had a bumper crop, let's say, of kindergartners. But we've got 258 and 251 last year, and 251 and 234 as far as our senior class. So we're starting to see that tide maybe change. I don't know if it's the new homes that we've got here, the littles, maybe they're bringing some littles in, and they're just out there, they're not yet in our school district.
I'm gonna add one more kindergartner. Alan got a new classmate today.
Okay, well, I needed them here on October 1st, so we'll get them on the county for February, but yes. So this is a good thing, this is looking good, and I'm hoping it's a trend, and I hope it continues. This is just a history of our CTE technical funding. So this is for all our vocational classes, our welding, our business courses, our, all of those courses, just our funding, just to show our funding levels of that, which is part of it. Special education is flat these 2 years. Same thing we're looking at is probably staying the same. Tuition support, this is that basic grant that I said that, $7,286 per student is here. So you can see in the last 5 years, despite our declining or stagnant enrollment, the increases in the basic grant formula have been beneficial for us. So we've increased some money and it's been helpful, but it hasn't really kept pace with the inflation. It's been good, and we're thankful for the increases, but you can see I've got here basic grants. So back then it was in 21-22, it was $6,300 per student, and we're up to $7,286. These are the percent increases each year, and this is average inflation rate for each one of those years. This year we all felt that when inflation went up, groceries went up like crazy in 22-23. But when you actually net out everything, we're still behind the average inflation our funding hasn't kept pace with the average inflation. So we're still about 3% down from where we should be in funding if you're keeping track with your inflation. So education cash flow by school year here. This is what I wanted to show you here. So these are our beginning balances, and you can see them increasing because we've been adding to cash balance. This line is our receipts by year. We got 22, 23 all the way up to estimated 25, 26. The in red there is the transfer from education to operations fund. When I said that we were very within reason or below that 15% max that we could transfer, there are school districts in Lake County that are exceeding that 15% like crazy and transferring more from their education to their operations to make ends meet because they've had circuit breaker issues in their operations fund and they have to transfer a lot more. And that's kind of what you're seeing back in 22, 23, 6.2%, 6.2%, one of the lowest in Lake County. Between us and Lake Central, we've always been very low in our transfer, 7.6. But now that 2.6 million that I need to transfer in order to make ends meet in that operations fund because we've got that circuit breaker loss, it's rising to 10.48. So it's something to make it a balanced budget that we need. Now down here shows our ending balance and it shows the percentage of expenditures. Prudent is 16%. It's important to have 16%. 12.9. We had, as far as the cash balance percentage, 18.4. We did go up to 22.5. Okay, so those are big numbers to add to cash balance, $1.3 million and $1.2 million. A lot of that is the grant funds that we got as a result of ESSER and COVID. All of that we supplanted. Is you could supplant with those, you could bring in extra supports and pay for those out of there. You could move some of your supports to save some money into those grants. So we were banking some money just for a rainy day type situation to have some reserves. But I'm predicting at the end of 25, 26, we won't be adding to our cash balance as much. Will be increasing by 92,000, so a balanced budget, but not saving any more reserves. And we'll be at a 22%, which is more than prudent, let's say that. So we've got some wiggle room there, but it will be changing. Education fund, the budget I'm proposing tonight is the same, similar as last year, 25.5 million. Given our cuts and our reductions, we don't need to ask for more than we needed last year, so 25.5. This is the breakdown of the programs that get that money. Regular programs, meaning regular instruction, that's the closest to the classroom, is 66.2%. The majority of it is personnel, 23,670,000 in personnel, 70% being teachers and counselors, 8%, roughly almost 9%, school admin, technology there as far as personnel costs. Salaries and benefits account for 92.83% of the education fund, including our NICEC services. So that's very people driven, like I said, 92.83% of this is that. There's one thing that we have to be mindful of is that in state statute in 2025, it said that we have to spend 62% of our state tuition supporting full-time teacher compensation. That's benefits and salary. They pull this from a report that we submit. Anything that's in subcategory 30, they take it against what our state tuition is. So last year, during 24-25 school year, our teacher salary and benefits totaled $15,776,000. Our NICEC costs were just under $1.5 million for a total of $17 million there. And our state tuition support was this number. So we exceeded the 62% median minimum that we had to pay our teachers and full-time teachers in compensation. So we were, we've been compliant the last couple of years with making sure that we're doing that. They changed the rate this year to 65%. So we have to make sure that we at least get 65%. So the year before we were at 66%. And I won't say that it was as a result of less money going to teachers, because they did get an increase and we did give them benefits and all of that. It was just the reduction of staff, because we have less staff, and of course you're gonna have less cost then. So that's the reason why it went down from 66 to 65. So we're gonna have to be mindful of that we give at least 65 to our teachers. So operations fund, same thing here. Revenue is always property tax based. We have an assessed value of 3.25%. You've got local taxes that come in, commercial vehicle tax, financial institution tax, excise tax when you pay for your license plates. That all trickles down here. We have that circuit breaker loss that we've got to be mindful of that I built into the budget, which is up over the previous year, and we're getting the revenue from the transfer. Expenditures includes those items: 17% increase in utilities, 12% in liability insurance, and 2% in health insurance. And it includes all of the operations folk, like I mentioned. Resources here, this is what we get for revenue. Like I mentioned, the property tax and all those financial institution taxes on this side. But we also have facility use rental going into there. Reimbursements, insurance claim reimbursements go into the operations fund, indirect cost rate from food service, like I mentioned, and then the transfer. So those are your revenues. 73% of the revenue is based on that tax draw. We used to be over 80%, but now it's about 70%, and it only changed because of the formula of how much money we're transferring and the indirect cost rate from food service that we didn't charge before. So here is the picture to show how much money in circuit breaker loss that this fund has had throughout the years. In the first year in 2019, we had $17,000, and it ranged all the way up to a high of $652,000 in circuit breaker loss, tax loss, all the way up to, kind of stayed steady in there. And then next year, that $1,863,000. It will be split between debt service, but again, like I said, they're going to change that. And I will say that that's one of the things that's saving or really helping the budget next year, is that we can split it between debt service, but there are school districts out there that don't have a cash reserve that could support the split between the two, so they're going to change that. Operations fund budget is proposed at $9,766,000. It's split between capital projects, almost evenly here, between capital projects, transportation, and other operations, meaning custodial maintenance, technology, all that kind of stuff. The breakdown here of what we've got in that is maintenance of equipment is a big bulk, technology is a big bulk, building improvements, and insurance, and the rest are small. We have a small contingency or emergency fund, small one for equipment. Transportation being a big portion of that, or a larger portion of that budget, is $2,325,000. 81% of that surmounts to salary and benefits for that department. We have 49 buses. 3 of them are smaller buses now. We have 4 buses with wheelchair lifts. Our school district is unique in the fact that we have 179 square miles. We're the southern third of Lake County. When you see that map and you see that, bam, there's Tri-Creek schools. It's pretty impressive to see that we've got 179 square miles. Munster, Hobart, they have about the same enrollment or similar enrollment in the 3,000 realm. Munster's 8 square miles. Yeah, 8 square miles. That's how many miles they have to go drive around to pick up people. So you can imagine our budget for transportation compared to theirs on that. Last year we drove 558,000 miles, the previous year, because this should say 24-25. Yeah, that's right. 24-25 is correct. And we did 3,154 miles a day. We got 7.4 miles per gallon on those big buses. We spent $206,000 in fuel last year to cover. I guarantee that's much higher than Munster's. So our operations fund has that capital projects plan with the proposed expenditures over $10,000. It's on our website if you want to check it out. It's basically technology, hardware, some iPads and laptops and equipment. You guys see those in your kiddos' hands. Custodial and maintenance equipment, those are tractors and snow equipment, removal equipment and stuff on there. Our bus replacement plan, one of the things that we've had to do to survive since the referendum loss is move the purchase of our buses over to bonds. And we were purchasing them out of bonds, short-term bonds that are paid off within 5 years, kind of like leasing a car. We're leasing a bus. Additionally, now that we're going to have these circuit breaker credits and that Senate enrolled act effect on our budgets, we're extending the life of the replacement cycle. We used to replace them 10 to 12 years because of our high mileage. Prudent, or the rule of thumb, is 12 years in the state of Indiana, but we have high miles, so sometimes it was better to get them off the road sooner before they started having issues and when they were under warranty and trade them in. We're going to have to extend that life to 12 to 14 years. Tonight on the agenda is a request to purchase 4 buses through the 2025 bonds. We gave them a letter of intent to purchase in order to secure pricing that we had because the pricing was expiring from the spring bid and they were gonna go to a fall bid and prices were gonna jump, they said, at least 15%. So we secured it through a letter of intent and we have it in writing that if we decide to not take the buses upon delivery, and it takes 2 years to get a bus, so these buses are ordered for in 2025, they will not show up till 2027 after production, they take 2 years just about. If we don't have the means to purchase them, we can cancel at that time, but we have them reserved for the 2025 bonds, so that's on the agenda, we can take questions about that later. So again, these would be purchased then. Debt service, again, these are need-based funds, and these are all have been through the approval process years ago. The school district authorized the 2008 bonds, which is the middle school, the building that's out there. So that's what it's the mortgage on the middle school. So each one of these have projects attached to them, from Red Devil trades to HVACs to additions on the elementary schools to the athletic facility that you see out back and other district-wide improvements. It also contains common school fund loans, which we use to purchase our iPads in bulk, and the capital projects or the operations fund list is for as needed throughout the school year when we need more of those. But mainly we purchase those through common school fund loans, which are 1% loans from the state, very low interest. Again, this is unprotected and we will hit that with circuit breaker. Our pension debts retirement fund, $94,184, again need-based, so that's included in the budget. This is on our form, the Form 3 is on our website, and it was our posting of our budget through the gateway system. It's the public way of advertising our budget. It shows all the funds, it shows the budget estimate for that fund, maximum tax levy, and the current tax levy. You'll see gaps between these. You'll see that this one is definitely, our current tax levy is much lower than this. Than our operations fund proposed levy right now. Number one, it increases 4%, like we said, each year. And number two, you advertise a little high so that your rate is a little high because you can never ask for more than what you've advertised. That sounds wonky, I know it does, but there are issues sometimes with calculating assessed value. 5 years ago, we had the county call us and say, whoops, we made a mistake. We gave you an inflated number by accident. And when you've advertised based on that inflated number, and if you've advertised low, you can't ask for more, you can't recoup it. So we add a little cushion in there. This will come down, and I'll show you that in another slide here. So they are a little inflated, but I will tell you, that's every school district does this, every entity does this to protect the tax rate and protect the budgets. Here's what I mean by that. So in 2025, these are the tax rates that we advertised, a total of $1.21. Again, the last 3 years, after budget review, we brought it down to $1.05 because we held to our word on that. And we've been $1.05 for 3 years. So you advertise high, and during the review process, you bring it down. This year, we advertised not as high as in previous. I cut the gap down to $1.12 is the advertised right now. And I'm anticipating with the change, because we did have an increase in assessed value this year, that Senate Enrolled Act 1 hasn't kicked in yet, it's for 2026. So we did have an increase, and that's gonna drive our tax rate down. So I'm anticipating, this is an estimate, and I hope I'm right, but I think it's gonna go down to $1.04 on here, and our consultants are seeing that too. That's my estimation of this budget. Just for comparison, tax rates in Lake County, they range anywhere from 66 cents up to $2.66 for school districts. River Forest being the winner of $2.66, and East Chicago being the other winner of the low. Kind of odd, they're both similar in the same areas, but they're very low. Tri-Creek is right in the middle there, our $1.05. We're on the lower half, so we're number 6 from the bottom as far as tax rates. See that. Over on the side, this doesn't tell the full story. This tells a little bit over here. So operating referendums, those are for people and benefits. Operating referendums help you pay for more personnel, help you pay for higher wages for staff. These are the school districts that have operating referendums. Below, capital referendums. Those are the school districts that have run referendums and won referendums for capital improvements. Maybe another school, maybe improvements within. Things that we did with bonds, they did with capital referendums. The ones that are in bold there, those 4 schools have both. Their names are on both lists. They've got an operating and a capital referendum. The ones with X's do not have referendums. So those are the school districts that Tri-Creek is coupled with here for not having a referendum. Lake Ridge Schools in Gary, Maryville, Whiting, Highland, and East Chicago. We have not been successful in running a referendum or haven't. I think Maryville's the only one that hasn't gone. Oh, East Chicago hasn't gone for a referendum. So next steps as far as budget. We will be moving on to our adoption meeting on the 23rd, where I'll ask the board to adopt all of those resolutions and adopt the tax rates as presented. Between October 20th, if that gets approved, between October 23rd and December 31st, the Department of Local Government Finance will review everything, will tweak that tax rate and make adjustments as necessary. And hopefully by their statutory deadline of December 31st, 2025, we will be able to have our budget approved and we'll be able to move forward. So, and we'll get them loaded and get them rolling in 2026. So, at this point, we can open the hearing and see if anyone has any questions. Uh-oh.
Do you want me to pass the quizzes out now?
Yes, could you please? Yes.
So I'm just gonna ask everybody to take a pencil and paper out, we're having a quiz.
I just heard everybody collectively breathe. I feel like we all are holding our breaths that entire time as well, so.
I have been doing so all week.
Is there anybody that would like to comment, question at this time?
Yes,
Best explanation of the school budget I have ever heard in my life.
thank you. Yes. Thank you. It's hard. Thank you. Thank you.
Professor Dana.
Thank you.
All right, well, the hearing is closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for enduring that.
All right, where are we at? Oh, what you're all here for. It's your turn. Yay. All right, Tri-Creek Education Foundation Grant Award recipients, if you guys would like to come on up and we can do the presentation. Mrs. Haberlin is the grant chair for the Tri-Creek Education Foundation.
And I was wishing that Dana had taught my course in school business in the 90s. I think I understand it better now than I did then. So anyway, thanks for allowing us to be here. We have lots of folks here who are grant recipients this year. And with me is Kurt McQuiston, Luann Brown, and Janice Bruce. They are members of the
grant committee. We also get help from Mrs. Doherty and Mr. Blackman, which we appreciate very much, and Dr. Anderson gives us input from time to time. So they help us make wise decisions and making sure that we are granting things that are in line with the school's mission and your other efforts. And while we're thanking people, I really want to thank your central office staff. They are amazing. And we'll just lift out Deanne here because she is here. But Deanne and all of the folks who work at the central office help us whenever we ask. And we know that sometimes we're interrupting their busy days. And they always help with a smile on their faces. So we appreciate that. One of the highlights of our work is to give money to creative staff members who have great ideas for making experiences even better for students. This year we had 18 applications. We are funding 14 of those applications. Of the 4 that we did not fund, 1 will be funded by the district per Dr. Anderson, and the other 3 to fund these grants. This year, we're going to award over $20,000 in competitive grants.
I will definitely be short. I'm used to talking to little ones, not adults. My name is Robin Lamale. I'm the STEM instructor at O'Kell. I'd like to say thank you so much for funding their Blue Box. It's gonna be all hands-on, lots of learning with my little kids. I can't wait. It's gonna be exciting to watch all their creativity.
Genius, and $516 for Vex Robots for the Classroom 2.0.
Awesome. My name's Jennifer Wilson. I'm the STEM instructor at Three Creeks. Last year, I was granted
$7.69 per ticket on how fast they can turn those out. The average day for a ticket to be submitted and completed is 7 days, and that does count Saturday and Sunday, which they don't work. So that literally is when they turn in the ticket, it's completed and turned back over in 5 days. So I think they just need, people need to recognize the hard work that goes behind the scenes for that team, from the custodians to the grounds to the maintenance. Those guys and gals work their butts off to make this school keep running.
Those are really great statistics. Thank you for pulling that data and
Yeah,
making a point to share
If
it.
you guys want a copy, I brought copies if you want. And the biggest thing that I ran, because when you do this system that we switched to, when you close out a ticket, not calling out plumbers or electricians, and also with Skillman on site, we don't have to pay a call. It's just their devotion to what they're doing, right?
Yes, that
Sounds
too.
wonderful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is it for guest reports. We move on to business operations reports. Dana?
Oh, geez, I forgot. It's just, they are 4 78 passenger Thomas buses on the spec that was last spring. They include extended warranties, 10 years on the after treatment.
That you might have.
I feel comfortable with the description and the documentation that we ran through. I feel very comfortable. It's a win-win for everybody.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, we agree.
Absolutely
We
appreciate it.
appreciate the relationship that we can get with our girls that we're coaching and with the school board. So it's pretty awesome.
It's exciting to see that we've got a girls' travel team
It is.
for our town.
Yeah.
We're not losing them to nearby
Very-
towns where they can
very
steal our
similar
talent.
Logo that the girls are wearing on the softball field here, so it's pretty awesome. So
And it's part of our property that we never use. Well, actually, we get to mow it every week.
yeah,
And so it'd be nice that you take that over and helps
It's
us.
gonna-
Yeah.
it's gonna kind of take an eyesore away and be a pretty cool staple there. So
Actually, I'm pretty fond of that area. My old office used to look right onto
yeah.
that field,
Yeah.
so.
And probably back then, maybe it was a little bit more well taken care of, but for the last several years, it's not been usable, so
Right.
we're gonna turn it into something that's pretty awesome, so.
We think it's a win-win for everybody, so thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for the initiative, for sure.
That's all.
Okay, we are on to board member reports.
Okay, I'm gonna make it real quick. We had our NICEC meeting last night, board meeting. We did our regular board stuff, but 2 items that stood out was that we approved our Medicaid provider for the NICEC, which oversees the Medicaid billing. Currently, they are using Ghost Geo Solutions, or Ghost Solutions, And Relay was a new company on board that actually came in $30,000 cheaper. So in an attempt to save as much money and get the same quality service, we're gonna approve that in the next couple weeks.
Great.
And then the other one was just updating the procedures for non-public and homeschool services. So those are the two outstanding items on the agenda from last night.
Mrs. Boyd,
Yes.
I see you sitting back there in the back of the room, and I'm not sure why you're joining us, but I want to take a minute, and if you would come up, if you don't mind. We did all of this recognition of grant recipients, and you just received a huge grant for our schools. So I am excited about that grant. And can you tell us a little bit about what you got going on?
Absolutely. So, hi everybody, my name is Brenna Boyd and I teach biology, earth space science, and AP biology here at the high school. It's my first year teaching AP biology, and I was fortunate enough with some grant funding to attend an AP training this summer where I was exposed to some really amazing biotechnology tools that I was like, oh, I need to get this in our students' hands. I've had a really unconventional journey to becoming a teacher where I was a scientist for almost 10 years, working in fertility and testing laboratories. And through undergraduate and graduate research have used a lot of these tools, but I didn't really get the opportunity to do that until college. And I really wished that I got to do it in high school. The world is growing really, really fast. Technology is huge. Biotechnology, PCR. A lot of the students in my my AP biology class are going to be future scientists, doctors, chemists, who knows, you know, the world is their oyster. So I'm really excited to get a grant from the pilot company, of all places, in their Miles for Good program. $10,000 in order to get some biotechnology for our classroom.
Wow, that's
So
cool.
I'm really thrilled. Thank you to Tammy for helping me. I originally approached her about potentially going for a TCEF grant, and then we kind of worked behind the scenes to get the pilot grant.
And
So
did you
it's
get
really
more
fun.
than you were going for with the pilot grant?
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, thank
So
you for
it's really thrilling.
doing that.
That's
Thanks
why I
for
wanted to
leading her and guiding her towards that.
be here tonight to see the approval of those funds.
Yes, yeah, well, that's coming through at the end. So
Yep.
I just wanted an opportunity for everybody to hear about that with all the
Oh,
grants.
thank you.
So, excellent work. All right, anything else you have for board reports? Okay. Moving on. Board policy, second reading and approval of updates to board policies.
Yeah, so the board, this will be the third time it's been put before you, and if there are no questions, the recommendation is to approve all of the updated changes.
Okay, any questions or concerns from the board? All right, then we are going to have a motion to approve the updated board policies 0141, 0. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, action items, purchase of 4 78 passenger Thomas C2 buses. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 2, resolution number 2025-08, authorizing the purchase and issuance of gift cards. Can I have a motion?
I have to make them all.
We got
I'll
a good
make a
team.
motion. I'm trying to share.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, middle school book club. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 4, snow bid removals.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, approve the Lowell Fast Pitch lease agreement. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Right over this one. Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Oh, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. You're good to go.
Thank you.
Get to digging.
Congratulations.
All right, and we have no number 6, so moving on to action consent items, we will group them all under one. A motion to approve meeting minutes, payroll and claims, and personnel report.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, donation consent items, we'll do them all together. $10,000 STEM grant donation from Pilot Company for Lowell High School AP Biology Biotechnology Program. Number two, $200 donation from Scott and Gretchen Gerstenkorn of Cedar Lake to help fund the Lowell High School Dig Pink volleyball event. Number three, donation from Diane Rakes, Qualchem Metalworking of Salem, Virginia, of two 5-gallon pails of Extreme Cut 251 valued at $577.10 for the Lowell High School machining classes. Number four, donation from T&B Tube Company of Gary, Indiana, of various tubing stock materials valued at $1,600 for the Lowell High School welding and machining classes. You've been working hard, haven't you, Mr. Hubble? And number five, donation from buildingsubmarines.com of welding pipe hanger kits valued at approximately $16,644. Been really working. Sea Perch ROV kits valued at approximately $4,725, and Sea Perch tool kits valued at approximately $1,156 for the Lowell High School welding classes. That's impressive. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for all 5 donations.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Hubble, have you done this, gotten this much in other years?
Not as much, no.
This is fantastic. Thank you for all your work you're doing on that.
Congratulations. Really appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know that takes a lot of extra time and searching and applying, so thank you. All right, opportunity for public comment not related to action items. Nope. The next meeting of the Tri-Creek School Board of Trustees is scheduled for Thursday, October 23rd at 6 o'clock. Any questions or comments? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.